All right, good morning, everybody. This is the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group, August 18th, 2023. I'll just turn that. I'm going to turn the speaker off in here so people can listen. So when anybody out there talks, I'll have to turn the speaker on up in here to make it happen. Let's see here. Our agenda this morning, we'll start with success stories. We'll then go to our 30-second introductions. We'll have everybody we'll then do the practice interview team, the career tip of the week, and then we'll have our main event right around the top of the hour. For those people on Zoom, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please just put them into the chat window. For those watching on Facebook, thank you for joining us this morning. Please just enter any questions you have in the comment field. We'll be sure to get those questions answered for you. Please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the recording. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Jeff Moore. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. The group started in the late 1990s. I took it over in 2007 when the prior leader landed a job, and I've been doing it ever since. In 2008, I saw a need and created a website called careerdfw.org, a website to help those who are unemployed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In 2012, I launched a second website, careerusa.org, to help those around the United States. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search You May Not Know. It is available on Amazon, or if you see me in person, I always have copies with me. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team. You'll hear more about that in just a moment. Well, we'd like to start the meeting off with good news. Any landings out there? Anybody like to report anything? Anybody, any news, please? Any landings, any landings? All right, well, I did hear of one landing this week. Heather Hines had been with us once or twice. She's an audit associate at Sutton Frost LLP. I think she started like last Monday, if I'm not mistaken. So she sent me a short note. She's our 31st landing for the year out of this group that I'm aware of. All right, what we'd like for everybody to do now is please in the chat window for those on Zoom, put in your 30-second introduction. Put in your name, phone, email address, position you're looking for, 2 or 3 target companies, then hit the return key. For everybody here in the room, I'm going to pass around the phone. We'll let you do your 30-second introductions live via the phone here in just a second. But if you'll do that, one of the things I'll do is I'll update the roster. If there's any handouts, I'll make sure you get the handout this afternoon. You'll get an email this afternoon with everybody's information along with the roster. And we want to we use the roster to update, that you've been with us. So if you're using this for a Texas workforce or your local workforce office as an event, I'll have a record of it in case they would come back and check. So we'll put 30, well, let's see what happens here. We'll put 30 seconds on the clock and we'll see if you can hear something. I can't hear that. Yeah, you probably can't hear anything. So let me just give you a few seconds. Yep, no music's playing. Okay. I guess I'm going to have to spend some time here this afternoon and figure out what's going on here. All right, so give you a little bit of time here. Please go ahead and put in your information. That would be great. For those people watching on Facebook, if you want to put your information in the contact field, I will go and delete it immediately after the event, so it won't be hanging out there forever and ever, but at least we will know that you were with us today. All right, for those people that are here in the room with us, and let me go find that and get that up there so y'all can see everybody. There we go. So those are, not everybody's in camera view here, but I'm going to pass the phone around, let everybody do their 30-second introduction. So ladies first. All right, we're coming all the way over here.
Good morning. My name is Alkeisha Rodriguez. I'm a customer success advocate. I help translate technical into to tangible to make it acceptable and profitable. My passion is, I guess I'm reading it, excuse me, to those online. I'm not trying to adjust what I'm saying to what I'm reading. Okay, so I need contacts at, I guess, Apple, Microsoft, and Cisco. My name is Alkeisha Rodriguez.
You don't have to follow that format. Just a general way here. So.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Aline Hutsano. It's actually my second time, here. I was here like about 3 years ago, and I was kind of hoping I don't have to come back. However, such is life. So I work in human resources. I am a compensation analyst, and I like to mainly to train managers on how to be effective people managers. That's one of my passions. I develop training. And I always like to create something that I call a win-win-win approach all the time. Win for the organization, for the manager, for the employee. I am looking for a new role in human resources in compensation. I think I'm interested to work for medium to large size companies. And again, my name is Aline Hutsano. Thank you.
My name is Tyler Bauer. I am a business analyst and IT consultant with experience in data analytics and digital marketing. I help companies use their data analytics to drive revenue growth and to analyze processes to cut costs. And still early in this process, but I'm looking to work at more of a small, medium-sized business, so would need contacts or just networks that were recommended for small and medium-sized companies. And my name is Tyler Bauer.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Bill Park. I'm a senior manager or director of environmental compliance. I am currently in the final interviews with 2 different companies, and so hoping to land. The 2 companies I'm talking to are Newell Brands and also Arctic Glacier Premium Ice. One's a director position, one's a senior manager position. One company's moving very slow, the other one's moving fast. So it's a timing issue, but I'm optimistic. My name is Bill Park.
Yes, my name is Arthur Williams, and what I do is warehouse management, inventory, and supply chain. I help with continuous improvement, and I help build strong teams and also collaborate with other entities to make sure you have a good flow when it actually comes down to warehouse management. So again, my passion is teamwork and also cross-functionality. I love to have teams that are cross-functional, and I love teamwork. So again, my name is Arthur Williams.
Good morning, everybody. My name is William McLaughlin. I'm currently looking for a data analyst role. I help companies make data-driven decisions by doing the research necessary to help them improve their bottom line. I'm looking for contacts at Leidos and CoreLogic. My name is William McLaughlin.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Sort of fun passing the phone around here. It's a little different. Haven't had to do this yet. All right. Let me give me a second here. Let's spotlight. All right, here we go. All right, so let's see here. Next slide. All right, a couple websites that are out there. If you're not familiar with them, Career DFW and CareerUSA.org, 2 totally free websites. They're not associated with this North Dallas group, except for the fact that our information is listed on the Career DFW website. They're 2 different organizations. I happen to lead both, but that's only a common thread between the 2. But if you know somebody who's unemployed, you know somebody who needs some help, please have them reach out to let them know about Career DFW and CareerUSA.org. The Career DFW website has a bunch of calendars with all sorts of stuff that's going on. The pink are job fairs, the gold are special workshops, the purple are webinars that are happening, the blue events are those groups that are meeting in person. So check out the calendar. If you know of something that's happening and you don't see it on the calendar, please let me know so I can keep it updated the best I can. Groups tend to disappear and they don't say anything, but when they show up, they tend to let me know because they want to get on the calendar. So If you know of something that's not correct, please let me know so I can update it so we can share that information with everybody. All right, just a second about let me mention just a little bit about the practice interview team. Your resume, your LinkedIn profile isn't going to get you a job. What is it going to get you? It's going to get you a phone call. How well you practice your interviewing skills, that's what's going to get you your next job. So the Dallas Pit Crew is a spinoff from this Friday group. It started 8-9 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago now. A couple people said, "Oh, I've got an interview next week. Can somebody help me?" And a couple people said, "Sure, let's meet at the church right here that we're meeting at right now on Wednesday at 1 o'clock." And that's how things sort of started. They started out with 3 or 4 people, and pre-COVID, we were getting 50 to 60 people showing up to watch multiple interviews happening on a Wednesday at 1 o'clock. When COVID hit, we all went online. And so the practice interview team is now offering free practice interviews online Monday through Friday, 9 to 4:30. What you need to do is you need to send a resume and a job description, and you're scheduled 2 to 4 days out. Send it to dallaspitcrew@gmail.com. Their motto is practice early, practice often. Doing it once, you're not going to be ready. It'll help you, but you're going to want to do it a second or a third time. Usually it's 3 to 4 times of practicing to really be proficient with what you do. You'll be interviewed by 2 to 3 people who are actually hiring managers, several of which are currently in the job market, but they're just offering to try to help people with what they're doing here. It's a totally free service, dallaspitcrew@gmail.com. Send your resume. Also, the group is meeting in person on the first and third Wednesdays of each month. So next Wednesday, the practice interview team will be meeting in person at Christ United Methodist Church. There'll be no online option. I know we already have one scheduled interview. Oh, wait. No, next week is actually the 4th Wednesday, so it'll be online only, I believe. But I do know we've already got somebody scheduled. So if you're interested, please reach out to them. If you want more information about the Dallas Pit Crew, just go to dallaspitcrew.com. All the details are right there. All right, it's time to hear for the career tip of the week. Rosanna is out this week. She had something she had to do with her child. So Jama is with us, and she's going to help us out today. So Jama, thank you for reading the tip this week.
Thanks, Jeff. Good morning, everyone. Today's tip can be found on careerusa.org. It's dated August 13, 2023. The topic is how to address frequent job changes during interviews. Job hopping is defined as moving from position to position often, typically staying in each role for fewer than 2 years. This is much shorter than the average employee's tenure of 4.3 years for men and 3.8 years for women, as reported by the Bureau of Labor Statistics in 2022. Hiring managers can view frequent job changes in 2 ways: as justified or as a signal of disloyalty or disengagement. Of course, you want to convince them your job hopping has been rational. If you're a younger professional, perhaps you are searching for your perfect role or exploring your options. Whatever your age, you might end up job hopping if roles weren't clearly explained to you, the company folded, or your position was eliminated. Maybe you had to leave a role to care for a sick family member. You might never have intended to job hop, but a series of unfortunate circumstances gave you no other choice. Regardless of why you have frequent job changes in your work history, you will still need to account for them during the interview process. When handled well, explaining job hopping in an interview can be a way for the hiring manager to see the positive elements of your varied work experience while being assured that you don't plan to jump ship, explains Krista Brown for SHRM. Here's how to make your job hopping seem like an asset, not a red flag in a job interview. First, make it clear you learned a new skill or about yourself during each job. Job hopping can be framed negatively if it seems like you simply got bored with a role and moved on. But hiring managers can view frequent job changes more positively if you discuss shifting roles as a means to developing new skills, moving up in your career, or figuring out what you want. So, articulate what you learned about yourself when you changed jobs. For instance, if you changed career fields more than once, you should articulate what you didn't like about those first two options before sharing what made the third one a better fit. Or you could talk about the skills you learned in one temporary role that allowed you to move quickly into a more advanced position at another company. Next, articulate that you had varied professional experiences. Because you want to suggest that you learn more about who you were professionally through each job change, you don't want to suggest that you left similar positions multiple times, even if you did. Instead, modify the job titles and vary the responsibilities you performed, even if they were similar, to suggest that you intentionally made a lateral move. This way, you can suggest that you're moving forward, not just getting bored with one job and moving on to another without a clear purpose in mind. Next, be honest about why you left. There are plenty of valid reasons why someone might want to move on from a job. However, if you don't tell the hiring manager what these reasons are, they might jump to the wrong conclusions. So don't be afraid to tell your authentic story. Perhaps you took a role that you had performing work that turned out to be quite different than what was advertised on the job posting. In the next position, then maybe you didn't feel like you could use your skills to their full potential. Or maybe it's the type of companies you're drawn to that have been necessitating your career changes. Necessitating, oh my gosh. Professionals who gravitate toward work at startup companies where there are no guarantees of stability are expected to have a few job hops in their professional record. And recruiters often question professionals who work in advertising and do not switch clients or companies every few years, as there's a concern that they'll lose their edge, says career expert Amanda Augustine. You don't want to badmouth other companies. That's another red flag in hiring, but you don't have to beat around the bush about why you decided to leave your past positions. Now, don't belabor the issue. Address all of your jobs hopping in one fell swoop. One thing you don't want to do is have the hiring manager ask you questions about your job hopping history again and again and again. Rather, you can nip questions like these in the bud by addressing your entire work history. Turn several problems into one problem you can address quickly. That is, if you've had a handful of job hops, respond to all of them at once. Make it a universal issue you've now fixed. You can diffuse it all in one fell swoop, suggests leadership coach Andrew LaCivita. For instance, you could talk about how you weren't sure about what you wanted to do in the past, but now that you've worked with a career coach, you're more certain about the trajectory you're seeking moving forward. Or maybe you job hop to advance more quickly through the steps of the career ladder, and now you want to commit to a company long term. What matters most to the hiring manager is that if they hire you, you're there to stay for the long haul, or at least for around 4 years. The bottom line, you should articulate a reason you've changed jobs, whether it was to advance or to find the best role for you. Your interviewers want to be sure that if they offer you the job, you will stay at the company and won't be looking for a way out soon after you're onboarded. That's a career tip of the week. I'll post a link in the chat. Thanks, Jeff.
Gemma, thank you very, very much. Yep. Turn the speaker off in here again so we don't have the feedback. All right. Our main event coming up in just a couple of minutes. Brandy Shade will be with us to talk about StrengthFinders. I apologize for those people if you caught the misspelling that went out in the email. I don't know, brain fart here this week. All right, upcoming next Friday, Mina Brown will be with us to talk about the one-page bio. I think this is an extremely important tool. This is something that everybody needs to have. It's more and more common. When you send out your resume, you're screaming, help me, help me, help me, I'm looking for a job. When you send out a one-page bio, it's more of a networking tool. It tells people who you are, what you do, and maybe how you can help them. And then it maybe will start a conversation, start a possible conversation. So join us next Friday for that with Mina Brown. And then in 2 weeks, we'll do open forum on September 1st. God, it's hard to believe September 1st is almost here. But yeah, we'll do open forum. We'll talk about whatever it is you would like to talk about. All right, it's time for our main event. Many of you know Brandy. She's been talking about StrengthFinders for years for job seekers around here in the DFW area. Brandy, I know I'm having audio issues here, so I'm going to turn it over to you. Please let people know who you are, and thank you for being with us today.
Absolutely. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. So thank you so much for having me. I think I need to share my screen too. So let's get that going. Is that okay to share my screen here, Jeff? Okay. Get permission later. Okay. Can y'all see my screen? Can someone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. So as you all know or are going to learn today, I am very, very passionate about understanding people and understanding their strengths, their innate strengths, and helping people figure out how to leverage and optimize those strengths throughout the course of their career. Because obviously, if you can get into the right role at the right company with the right sponsors and the right leaders, doing the right job, then things seem to go exceedingly well very, very quickly for people. And I really love helping people experience success quickly throughout time. So the assessment that I use is called the Gallup Clifton Strengths Assessment. And this was created by Don Clifton over 50 years ago. And these are Don Clifton's strengths. You can see that he had significance, futuristic, individualization, focus, maximizer. And I know some of these strengths and these definitions and these words are going to be new to you, but hang in there with me. I'm going to try to explain them as we go today. So significance is somebody who wants to make an enormous impact, a huge impact, and really has the sight for not focusing or working on things that just aren't going to make a huge impact. And so they end up doing some pretty big, significant things in their life. And it's also an influential strength because it's setting the bar pretty high. It's saying, hey, let's work on this. Let's focus on this. Let's do things that get ourselves credentialed. And it's also a strength that seems to operate better when it's seen, when it's visible, or its work is seen or visible, or it's in the spotlight. A lot of us would crumble under certain pressures of people watching, but they tend to actually excel in those environments. So it's really important for someone like this to get into an environment where their work is seen and visible. He has futuristic at number 2, which means he cares about the future. He's looking at what is the future of products 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. And he is more of like what you would call a visionary when it comes to that big picture thinking, because he's dreaming about what that looks like. And so what I do then is I look at not only the number 1 significance and the number 2 futuristic individually, like we just did, but I also look at them together. So what does it look like when Don is creating significant futures, or he's thinking about how to be significant within the future? So you take the 2 and you kind of pair them up and you mash them up and you go, he's a significant futurist, or he's a futuristic, significant human. And what does that look like? And where does that belong? We cannot necessarily tell someone's interests by looking at strengths, but what we can tell is what their motivation is, how their brain is perceiving things in, processing them, and spitting them back out, sort of like how those neural pathways are firing. But I don't know exactly what kind of significant future he wants to create, or how he wants to be significant in his future without talking to him and understanding that. He's also got individualization, which means he really loves working with individuals and customizing his interactions with them and creating really highly productive teams based on understanding how different people tick on the team and who might work well with whom. He's got a high extreme focus in these areas, and he's also really interested in maximizing people. That means, looking for high performers that he can specifically coach and help maximize to their greatest potential. And even create, levels of excellence. And so if I take the maximizer, for example, and apply it to all these other strengths, he's going to have maximized significance, maximized futuristic thinking, maximized individualization, which means he is maximizing or coaching individualizations to a level of excellence, and then also maximized focus. So he was a pretty intense guy. And you can also see on his graph here that not only was he highly influential, but he was really strong up front in setting direction and collaborating with people and coming up with interesting creative ideas. But he was also really good in the middle, where he's managing humans one-on-one and also focused on the process and streamlining and making sure things are efficient with that focus strength. So this is the man behind the assessment that we're looking at today. And if any of you want to take this assessment, you can go to Gallup, and you just go to Gallup on Google, and you just type in, I like using the 34 Clifton Strengths assessment. It is a $60 assessment if you guys are interested in that. If you don't have those kinds of funds right now, you can take the top 5 assessment, which is what you're seeing on the screen here. And that one's the $20 assessment. But in order to engage in this activity, you do have to take a personal assessment. Okay, so there are 34 strengths total, or you can think about it as 34 neural pathway wirings in your brain. And they did a huge study on this, an open study. So they didn't say this is it, who has what. They said, what do people have? And so they did this huge study to see what exactly do people have as a whole population. And these were they found a whole bunch of behavioral traits that then they labeled, and they just smacked a word on top of all those behavioral traits. So what you're seeing on the screen is that word they chose. So some of these words might mean something different to you, but we're going to define them so that you understand them, how they're defined here. The big words are the ones that are found most often. So achiever, responsibility, learner, relator, those strengths are found most often in the population. Strategic, input. But things like self-assurance or command or significance or focus or discipline, these things are found less often, which means that when people have these, it may be misunderstood by others. And so it's really important to take the time, if you have a teammate that has one of these and you don't understand it, to understand what exactly is that? What does it mean? How can we leverage it as a team? What can it do for us? Because it will be a different way of thinking than the group think, perhaps. And we don't want those people to feel alienated. We want them to feel valued for the uniqueness that they bring to the table. So this assessment does not define your competence or your interests or your career path, but what it does allow us to talk about is your natural abilities, what you got going for you. And I get a lot of questions around this. Is it genetic? Is it learned? Can we change it? So the way you can think about this is your neural pathways are forming all the way until you're 25 years old. They get fully formed somewhere between the age of 14 and 25. That's a big range. And when they are fully formed, it's very difficult to change them. It's difficult to create neuroplasticity in the brain, which is needed to change neural pathways. Not impossible, but difficult. So it's really important in that early childhood development to really find out who your children are, and to help them be themselves and encourage them in their unique way of thinking, if possible. And what we see is that some people, so you're all born with a certain genetic code. Some people's strengths have been encouraged throughout time. Some have been suppressed. And some environments or experience have changed maybe the natural neural pathway that was, originally there. You can have huge traumatic events that will change things. However, what I've also seen is that the genetic code that you were given actually helps you cope and deal with certain situations as well. And so it's amazing how many times I'll hear the same situation or story, but the people in it are different. And so the people handled it a different way. And now you guys probably see this a lot in family situations. Let's say one big event affected the family, but every family member dealt with it differently. That's the neural pathway wiring that we'll be talking about today that you're seeing. So the strengths are relatively non-shifting. They rarely move around. They may move around a little. You may value certain things more or less during the span of time, but that doesn't change who you are innately. And it's very, very rare to see something from the bottom come all the way to the top. It's more likely that what you'll see is the top 10 shift around slightly. So Gallup found that people who have the opportunity and take the opportunity to focus on their strengths every day are 6 times as likely to be engaged in their jobs and more than 3 times likely to report having an excellent quality of life. So you're thinking right now, okay, yeah, great. When I get on a job, hopefully I'm that engaged, but what do I do right now? The thing that we're going to focus on today is how do you understand yourself so well that you know exactly what job you should be taking, exactly what recruiters you should be talking to, exactly how you should be communicating your strengths to others so that the energy you're putting out there is the right energy is coming back to you. It's really, really important, especially if you're working with recruiters because they're looking for the purple unicorn. So if you figure out where am I the purple unicorn and then go engage in those environments and with those recruiters, you're going to get a job way faster than if you're flailing around doing some things that aren't right for you and aren't right for the companies or the recruiters. Okay, so this is for those of you who love to go research and look up some studies. There's some studies here at the bottom. This study was done around 50,000 business units across 1.2 million employees. That's 22 organizations, 7 industries, and 45 countries. And what they found was that when you use a strengths-focused approach in departments or companies, you're going to see a lot of increases in things that you want to see increased, and you get decreases in things you want to get decreased. So profits go up, customer satisfaction goes up, productivity goes up, engagement both on the customer side and the employee side go up, sales go up. And then you have things like absenteeism and turnover and safety incidences. All those things go down when people are sitting in the right seats, when they are doing a job they absolutely love, they're so into, it engages their brain, it doesn't feel like work. It doesn't really matter how many hours you work, you absolutely enjoy what you're doing. Sorry, I go into, I'm live mode. I was going to ask a question, but then it's going to take forever to someone to say the answer because y'all got to unmute. So there are 34 total strengths. Let's just take the top 5 for a minute and let's put them in order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 33 million combinations. So each one of you in this room today, there's about at least 17 online and a couple more in the room. That means we're all 1 in 33 million people, which makes my job so interesting. I never, ever meet someone that's like another human, because not only are they varied from a strengths perspective, but they've also got different experiences and they're different genders and they're different religions. And I mean, my job is so interesting. When each one of you I work with is incredibly unique. If I look at all 34 strengths and put those in order, there's 2.59 times 10 to the 36th power combinations of those. So now you're really unique. If I look past the top 5, you're a little star in the sky. And if you take this number and divide it by how many years you're going to live on this earth, let's use 100. 2.59 times 10 to the 36th power divided by 100. That's the number of lifetimes that you would have to live over and over and over again to find somebody like you with the same strength set. And again, with none of the other variations that we mentioned. There's going to be 4 domains that we're really going to focus on today, which is the strategic thinking, the executing, the relationship building, and influencing. So if you have a strength in the strategic thinking realm, it just means that you love to think. And all of these strengths come at thinking differently, but they have an aspect to them that where you don't have to ask them to think, their brain is just going to think. They're just going to enjoy sitting there thinking about things. We go to these guys for their thinking. We go to them for their thoughts, for their ideas, for their wisdom. Then we have the executors. The executors love to execute. You don't have to ask an executor to execute. They're on it. They're already executing. They absolutely love getting things done over the finish line and delivering. So we go to them when we need to get something done. The relationship builders are the ones who love to take the time for other people. They love people. They love connecting. They love getting to know them. They love spending time with people. And they all come at it in different ways. You can have someone that's could have 3 of these, 4 of these, 5 of these strengths, or you could have a person that has 1. That just determines how many ways that they're coming at relationship building. We also have the influencers. These guys are thinking about, how do I get somebody to do something that they would not have done otherwise? And because they think that way, they are able to get people to do things that they might not have done on their own without them. We're also going to look at strength zones today. And this is the strengths spread out across the zones. And these are Gallup's total assessments across the world that you're seeing, the numbers you're seeing on this screen. So this is across 30 million people. And you can see that most categories are fairly even with a varied amount of strengths. But the one that's just a little tiny smaller is that creative zone at number 3. This is the eccentric, abstract, creative thinking. So we can have directors, people who are very collaborative and moderative. We can have the eccentric creators at zone 3. We can have the innovators. So the innovators are also creative, but they kind of need a starting place to start from before they take something that already exists and turn it into something more. We also have the organizers. We have people managers. And I want to say a caveat here. Just because your strength may not fall into one of these categories does not mean at all that you can't function in that category or even function well. It just means that wasn't your innate talent or strength, and that it might have been a little harder for you to get competent in that area, but it doesn't mean you can't get competent in that area. And then you also have the evaluative zone, which is zone 7. Those are the high quality assurance people. And then we also have the delivery people, the finishers on the back end. And you can imagine people have all different combinations of these strengths of how they come out, which makes them unique, and also helps us determine, okay, where do you fit into things? I'm going to pause there for just a moment. Are there any questions? Jim, you said, does the order of the strength zone mean anything in particular, or did it just work out that way? The strength zone order is really just about the life of a product. So somebody's got to direct the work, that you're going to have collaboration, you're going to have creation, you're going to have innovation. You're also going to have people that have to organize everything that we've come up and brainstormed. We're going to have management that has to occur. We're going to do quality assurance before we kick it out the door, and then we're going to finish the project and send it out. So you can almost think of it like a project life cycle. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Yeah.
We've got one question here.
Sure.
Hi, Brandy. It's Bill Park.
Hi, Bill. How are you?
Good. I'm going to wait a minute. We're getting an echo in the room.
Okay.
Okay, now we're better. So my question is, I took the test 4 years ago that has the 5 strengths listed. And I noticed on some you say you're 40% this and 20% that. How do I know which are my biggest strengths? Is it the order that they put them on the themes sheet that I got, or?
Yep, that's exactly right. Do we still have an echo? We have an echo on the call. Okay, that's better. So yes, the top strength that you have is going to be your strongest strength. So let's go to Don Clifton's here. So his strongest strength is significance. So if he had to choose in just any random environment to be significant or focus, he's probably going to lean into the being significant. Now, you can imagine him as a 6-year-old at a classroom. He's trying to be significant when he should be focusing. So then what we do is we teach people, okay, when you're in the academic environment, like he might have been as a 6-year-old in first grade, he needs to turn on and flex his focus strength. Use your focus strength. You can be significant in another environment. We get you up on stage in a play where you're, singing to the whole crowd. Then turn on your significance, or maybe turn on your significance and focus at the same time. but we kind of have to understand when to turn what on at what moment or what environment. And that helps us, what I call, become strength intelligent. But naturally, before we learn to have control over that, we're going to lean into the first one first, and then the second one, and so on and so forth. And it also really defines what you value more than something else. The order matters. Okay, so I put together a group today based on your feedback in the chat just this morning. So Adam, Jama, Jesse, Jim, and Kathy all said that they would be happy to share their strengths here in this session today and wanted me to look at them. So I'm going to look at them in a group setting, and we're also going to look at them a bit more individually. We do have one really interesting, unique thing in this group, so I can't wait to point that out to you. So you can see on the screen that this group, if we're looking in their top 5 strengths, we have 4 achievers out of 5 of these people, 4 relators, 3 learners, and 3 responsibilities. So if we just kind of hang out there in the top, one thing I want to point out is that achiever, relator, learner, and responsibility are actually the strengths that are found most often in the entire population. So I just thought that was interesting, that the ones that are the highest, you know, we find them 31%, 27%, 28%. You can see that all the way in the right column. Those are actually the ones that we have represented in this group today. So that's a very normal looking group. And then we also get into the fact that we have some individual or unique strengths, which is where this 1 is next to the strength. And then we also have, you know, you can see all these zeros. Out of these 5 people, they don't have these strengths as a top 5 strengths. We have lots of gaps on this team as well. Okay, so what is an achiever? Achiever is someone who absolutely loves to get things done. They make lists. They love to check the list off. They're more motivated when something is 80% done because they want to finish it. It's harder for these people to get something started unless they have another strength like activator somewhere nearby. I know for myself, I'm also an achiever. I just have to create the list. If I create the list, I can get going, I can get started. But if I haven't created that list, it's kind of hard for me to work on something. And then the more that project gets closer to being done, the more excited I get to actually work on it and finish it. This is the most common strength that's found across the population. And this is Kathy's number 1 strength, Adam's number 2 strength, Jesse's number 2 strength, and Jama's number 5 strength. So let's look at Kathy since it's her number 1 strength. So Kathy starts off with the achiever, which means that she absolutely loves to get things done. More than anything else, she likes to be productive and get things done. But she also has learner right at number 2, which means she's curious. She loves to learn. She will stop the achieving for a moment in order to just step back and learn something and just learn the skill or the software or about somebody, because it's just fun and interesting to learn that thing. But she really loves to achieve and learn at the same time, which means give me a course so I can, you know, run through the course and achieve as much as I can in the short amount of time and finish the course and learn as much as I can. So a course is really fun, or learning a skill is really fun, and having a goal of, okay, what am I actually achieving while I'm learning is really fun for Kathy. The third one is relator, which means now we're not just focused on achieving something and learning something, but we also care about humans deeply. We want to understand them. We want to be open, transparent, and vulnerable with them. And if I relate to you, I'm going to just gravitate to you because then we can, you know, connect, go on a walk together and talk about all kinds of things. And we can grow the relationship by really understanding one another. So you can imagine now, if I take achiever, learner, and relator, I'm achieving learning, I'm achieving relationships, I'm relating with people who are learners and achievers, and I'm also learning about people, and I'm learning how to achieve effectively. Kathy, how are we doing so far? Are we about spot on?
Nailed it.
Okay.
I'm going to bring you along on my interviews to explain.
I happen to be particularly good at achiever, learner, relator because it's exactly my top 3 as well. So I'm very, very versed in those 3. Now, where we start to get a little bit different is I actually have consistency discipline at 4 and 5, where you have responsibility consistency. So responsibility is the love for being responsible. You know, when someone says, can you do this? Can you meet this commitment? Will you take this on? If you say yes, you are not going to fail. It's like, I said I would do this. I will be there. I have really high integrity and I'm going to get it done. I'm going to get it done on time and I'm going to get it done with high quality, period. The thing that really frustrates a responsibility is if they're surrounded by people who are not responsible or who do not think that way or don't have those neural pathways, because you depend on them. And if you can't depend on them for you, you can't trust them. So they become very irrelevant to you if they're not meeting their commitments, because you just can't depend on them. And you don't relate with that as well. So it's a double whammy. You're just like, I don't understand you and you're not getting the job done. So we need to move on. And that's okay. You just have to understand that that's the type of people you need to work with. You've got to put yourself in an environment with highly independent, responsible, achieving, learning relators. And that is going to be so much more fun for you. I will tell you that where I have seen the achiever, learner, relator responsibility combination is in a consultant. That I've seen it over and over and over again, because you get to learn new things, you get to deliver things all the time, and you have to be responsible to the client. And then she does this consistently over and over and over. This is the process side of your personality. Actually, so is learner. So you've got this huge process improvement side where you're continuously learning, you're continuously improving, and you want to set up things that are scalable, that everyone can use, that are systematic, that have some sort of policy behind it, right? Like, this is how we do things, and everyone knows that this is how we do it. Kathy, what is your profession?
A digital product owner. So I write requirements for websites.
And so do you only do websites, or do you do other
I can do other things besides that. It's just I've been presented with, it's basically airline reservation websites where there was a lot of government mandates, like when we started collecting middle name, date of birth, and gender, and it just succession of about 5 projects like that. But I'm also a project manager, but I really prefer to be like in the depths of working with a development team and testers and designers and all these creative people, and I'm just kind of the traffic cop for it all.
Yeah. And what I want to show you here that's really interesting is that if I click on the career considerations tab here, okay, you can actually see like what types of professions that other people with your strengths enjoy doing. You can see the technology part starts to come into the learner. You can see the operations part is in the achiever. You can see that the client or relationship management comes into the relator, and also the organizers, right? I mean, relators love to organize things. And then you get, again, into maybe a little bit more of the finance, consulting, and client piece down here, even project management. But the part that I find so interesting is that I see the law enforcement part down here, and you just called yourself a traffic cop.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yep, that's it. These people love rules, love policy, and they love to, really help everybody stay within that structure that is created. Okay. Any questions about your strengths, or any questions in general about career search or for me that I can answer for you today?
Wow, you've given me a lot to absorb. I can't think of a thing. I'm kind of blown away.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. Okay. So let's go back to our group. And I want to point out something so interesting about Jama and Jesse. Let's actually go to the domains here. So we can see that everybody in this group today is different. Adam is really heavy on the strategic thinking and execution with a little bit of relationship building. That's his main approach, where Jim is just really high strategic thinking. He needs a job where he can think and dig and learn and research, and then become the subject matter expert and actually influence, some sort of change with that subject matter expertise. Jama's kind of mixed, right? She needs everything. She needs a job where she can influence. She needs a job where she can execute, strategic think, and build relationships, where Jesse needs a job where she can mainly influence and execute. This looks like sales, by the way, when I initially look at this. and with that little bit of relationship building, but we'll have a look here in a minute. And then, Kathy is obviously more on the operations side. She's got huge amounts of execution with a little bit of strategic thinking and relationship building. Okay, so the one thing I wanted to point out that was so interesting. So JAMA has a combination. Let's actually look at your unique values. Where did I see this? Yeah, it's right here. So she has a combination of relator and woo, and it's so rare. It's like only 3% of the time in the entire world will you see this. And let me explain why. Relators want to meet one-on-one, and they just want to be with their one human, and they just want to have high quality of time, and that's it. They really, what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, they desire that environment. A woo is completely different. A woo really loves social situations, big conferences, where you can walk all over the room and mingle with everybody and just win everybody over. It's a sales strength, right? Where you're bringing everybody home with you. And so the fact that she has both means she can operate in both. She loves one-on-one close relationships with her friends, and she also loves to go out into the conference world and meet all kinds of people and bring home all kinds of people, bring home new friends. Does that seem accurate, Jama, for you?
It is. I'm constantly torn, right, between the two. So that makes sense. Thank you.
Yes. And so what was fascinating to me was to look at Jesse and go, Jesse has it too, right? So you guys actually have two people in the room on this call that are so rare. They're only found 3% of the time across the entire population. You have two in this room today. That's very, very rare. I hardly ever see these types of combinations anyway. And then we have two of them in the room today. So you guys probably will relate because you both have relator woo, which is so rare. Have you ladies ever found that people find this combination weird, that they just don't know what box to place you in because you seem to be equally, let's say, sincere, but also able to function out in the sales world? Or does it just work for you?
I don't know, but Jesse, I would say I like to think it works for me, but typically I think one area dominates at a time, right?
Okay.
So I'm either in woo mode or relator mode generally, right? So they don't always see the two together, except for my family, which drives them absolutely crazy. But
Yeah, that makes sense. Jesse, do you have any thoughts? Did we lose Jesse? Okay. All right. So Jama, since we got you, let's look at your profile. So, we don't see what we just saw, right? We don't see all that execution and delivery, although we see a little. We've got achiever at number 5. But what we see now is the love for researching, just loving information and soaking up any information that you can get. I'm sure that you listen to podcasts. I'm sure that you use Google and just go down these rabbit holes and research things. Is there a particular area that you love to research, Jama?
No, that's interesting. I can't say there's a particular one. I do often go into rabbit holes. I invested in a Kindle. I can't tell you how many books I have. It's just on every topic. So
what types of books?
They're typically either self-improvement or like spy thrillers. It's one or the other, really, kind of crazy.
Yeah. Okay, good. And then the relator piece is going, okay, I value the one-on-one relationships. I want to open, vulnerable, transparent environment. And maybe even getting information on relationships is interesting to you because you have the input and the relator.
I would tell you that's probably an accurate assessment. I am really interested in people and relationships and how they all connect, and to the nth degree. It's crazy. I can't even begin to tell you. I just came back from a drum corps in Indianapolis, and I think I got to know every single person I spoke to. What
And
city
again,
they're from, where they are, how they relate to my son. It was just, some kind of crazy rabbit hole.
and it sounds like what you did was you got, all that information and input on people that you didn't know, which is the
Yes,
woo, and you got
correct.
to know them deeply. You got to know them well, which is the relator piece.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So now we're seeing all three flexing at the same time in that environment. And then it looks like you're probably able to take all that information and learn all that about those people, and then actually nudge them, get them to do something with that, get them to activate, get them to get started. Is that true?
Yes. Come see my son's show. Am I going to see your show? Where are we going to go next? Where are we going to have lunch? Yes, I do have that.
Yes. So you're activating the relationship, you're activating the information gathering. So you're taking all of that stuff and you're getting it started. Now, what's so wonderful about your top 5 is that you don't only get things started, you also get things done. So not only do you suggest it and push and nudge, but you actually have the intent of following through with putting that on a list and then finishing it, delivering it, and crossing it off and getting it done.
Sometimes kicking and screaming, others kicking and screaming, but yes, that it will happen.
But that's great that you're bringing that up, because what you're saying is that the activation is easier for you than the finishing, which is exactly what the assessment says, because the activation is higher than the achieving.
Yeah.
Now, what do you do? What's your role?
It's interesting. I tend to be very successful as an operations director. I on my profile, I create order out of chaos, because I will look at all this information and I'll figure out how to fix it and make it better. And usually through relationships, I'll figure out who the most influential people are that impact the process. I'll find the subject matter experts and then leverage them to help me fix it, because I'm not, I'm never going to be an agile scrum master. I'm just not going to be that in the weeds, but I will find the people who'll make the problem go away or fix the process. And it's always your people.
Yeah, I find this fascinating, because what I heard, what you just said was, I identify the problem, which is the input, right? It's getting all the information to put it all together, that strategic thinking to say, what is the actual problem? Then, since you relate with subject matter experts, you can then go find, you just identify naturally the subject matter experts for each piece of it that you understand will fix the problem. And then you also said, and I look for people that are not only are the subject matter experts, but I also relate with influencers, which means I can identify who's an influencer really well. So I'm looking for that combination of that subject matter expert and that influencer, and I'm finding them to then go deliver and solve the problem. I'm not going to do it, but I can identify it really well. That's what I heard when you described that from a strengths perspective.
And I will tell you that it's given me confidence. You're right, that I can, I can translate these skills regardless of the industry.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If you feel comfortable finding the subject matter experts that you can, which you can, right? You can get up to speed on what a subject matter expert is in any realm. And then you can then identify them. And you're not only identifying the subject matter expert, the SME, but who is influential in that realm as well, who has a large amount of influence. Then you can absolutely say, okay, let me empower you to get this job done, but I need you to get this job done. It's fascinating.
Thank you for those words, Brandy. I was trying to figure out how to describe myself. That'll work in an interview. Thank you.
You're so welcome. And in here, by the way, there's not only the unique brand, which will give you a bunch of words and wording and ways to express who you are and what you do, but there's also the strength language. And I think this is really important, because it is the words that turn your brain on. And it's the words that I would use as I'm putting stuff out in the world, because you'll then be attracting people with those strengths. They don't even know it. But if you're using their words, then you're attracting them to you as well. So I always take this section very seriously and specifically use words that other relators or other inputters or other activators use, so to make sure that they can find me. Those people that are looking for me are going, oh, this is my human. This is who I've been looking for. And then they come to me.
Thank you.
Of course. Okay. Let's go back. Let's see here. go back to our group. There we go. All right. Shall we look at Jim? Because Jim is so different. It's so interesting. Jim has strategic thinking. He loves to think. And what he has here is he has all three academic strengths. So there's three strengths that are very, very academic. That's the learner, that's the input, and you have intellection here, right here. It's right here. So he comes at thinking from an intellection standpoint. He comes at thinking from an ideation, from an input, from a strategy, and from a learning standpoint. Just really, really strong academically. Jim, do you have a PhD?
Master's.
You have a master's. What's your master's in?
The master's title is engineering management, but it's operations and research coursework.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right, good. So obviously with learner, input, intellection, I want you guys to understand that when you have one of those, it's strong. When you have two of those, it's very intensified. When you have three of them, you are so intense through the roof on this level. You're so strong because you're getting information, you're learning, you're processing, you're thinking about it. And it's just, the thoughts are just going to be so deep. The well is so deep.
And maximizer.
Oh gosh, and maximizer, yes. So you're maximizing all of this. Oh my goodness. So what have been your absolute favorite roles, Jim?
Product line manager. I had P&L responsibility for $40 million product line that it grew to $90 million in 4 years. And I was responsible for everything. I had my fingers in everything.
Wow. And how did you do that? How did you grow it from $1 million to 90 million?
Part of, maximizer. But part of it is I'm a strategic thinker and I see relationships between things. So I was able to, in project management, I was able to connect people together that needed to be brought together, and it wasn't obvious to them that they needed to be collaborating, but it was obvious to me.
All right, so let's talk about that strategic so everybody can learn about this. The way that the strategic thinker thinks is it goes, what if this, what if that, what if this, what if that, what if this, what if that? It plays out all the possible scenarios the brain can think of. And then it looks at those scenarios, and this happens very quickly in their brains. It looks at all the scenarios and said, this one's not going to work, this one's not going to work, this would work, but this would have to change. This is going to work, but we need this and this and this. And then this is ideal, so let's do this. And it quickly prioritizes, and it quickly says, this is the path of least resistance. This is what's going to get us there the fastest and get us the biggest result. But we still have to move these pieces to get that to work. And if those pieces don't work, then we're going to do this and this and that to get this to work. And if this doesn't work, then we're going to do this. And if this, so they're just doing this if then thing all the time in the brain, which allows them to really project the future based on how they can navigate and move the chess pieces to get it to work out in the way that they need it to get to work out. And every time there's something new that happens that changes that scenario, they just recalculate everything very quickly over in their brain again and then choose a new path forward. Does that sound
the chess right? Is a good analogy, but it's really more like 3D chess because I see moves that aren't obvious to other people.
Correct. And that's probably also a bit of that maximized strategic as well. Okay. So the maximizer is the element that he was talking about, how he can see people, he can see humans that are high performing, that will reach levels of excellence if he just goes in there and helps them understand what they need to be doing to be maximized. Because most of us want to be maximized. So Jim can go see somebody that can be maximized in that strategy and go work with them and coach them to get them and influence them to get them to maximize themselves, which they're going to love. And then that will then come back and maximize the strategy. Right, Jim?
Yes, and I'm going to take it a step further because it's not just the forerunners in the team, but a lot of times I take people at the lower end of the spectrum and let them know that they have a piece to play as well that will help the entire team, and they love that.
And I didn't say higher or lower, I said high performers. So a high performer can be in an entry-level role. they just haven't had a career yet. But I think you have the eye to identify who in those even lower level roles that is a high performer that you could maximize. What do you think?
I still think I've helped lower performers to let them know that they can be part of the team and a contributing part of the team.
Do they stay low performers?
No, they don't.
So that tells me they're not a low performer. That tells me that they may have been a low performer in that moment, but they're not actually a low performer. I guess we're defining it differently, because I defined a low performer as someone who just never ever wants to perform or wants to, improve or wants to reach excellence. I have worked with lots of people who are low performers. I have myself been a low performer because I've been in the wrong role and I didn't care. And it was like, I'm dragging myself out of bed every morning to do this thing that I don't care about. But that doesn't make me innately a low performer. I'm actually a high performer. And all I needed to do was be nudged in the right direction to get into that high performance arena.
Got it.
And that's where I think you're seeing. I think you're seeing high performers, even if they're not performing high in that moment. But any thoughts, any questions from anybody else? I see a couple in the chat here. Let me take a breath here. Okay. Jesse was on the phone. Okay. Okay, Jesse, did you come off the phone? Not yet. Okay. And then you can see, he's just so heavily up in these first six. So how many years of experience do you have in product management, Jim?
15 plus.
I would like to talk to you about fractional work at some point. I don't know if you've considered that, but there are fractional product manager type positions out there. So maybe that could be something interesting for you to do, since you are naturally a strategist and consultant.
Okay.
Okay.
I will hook up with you.
Yes. Okay. Who did we look at here? Have we looked at Adam? Adam, we haven't looked at you yet, have we, sir?
No, sir. No, ma'am.
Okay. So we see here that you also have that a relator achiever responsibility combination, and then you have the learner intellection. So you're kind of pulling from multiple people here on the team. But your order is different. So I'd love to just talk about this. So you have relator, the relationship building piece at the top. So I'm assuming that your top most priority above everything else is people and relationships. Is that true?
It's deep relationships with trustworthy people. I'll put it that way. It's not just anybody.
How do you find them?
I'm retired military, so trust is at a premium in that environment, because if I can't deploy with you and trust you to have my back, I don't need you. So during, I'll just be frank, in my last 7 years in private sector, I'm sorry, private sector, it's been hard. Mm-hmm. They're fewer and far between.
Yeah. So how do you identify them? When do you know that you have found a trusted human that could be in your circle?
Funny thing is, most of them are retired military, but others have that same drive, the same understanding of responsibility, of duty, and not in it for themselves, and will back you on things, even if they're unpopular but correct assessments. Mm-hmm. That's how you find them, and I've found a few here and there. But that's actually why I'm currently working, but I'm looking for something better, because leadership just doesn't exist in my current environment.
And what are you currently doing?
Oh, I'm doing operational risk for technology, cybersecurity, business resiliency. I spent 22 years in the military as a telecommunications, cybersecurity, resiliency engineer. So the work, very technical, very strategic thinking, solving problems. So that all fits. It's the leadership piece and cronyism that's really frustrating me.
Mm-hmm. So have you really leaned into looking at the defense arena here in Dallas-Fort Worth?
I have, and I've been offered jobs. The difficulty there is most of it, once you get to a certain level, and I'm at a senior level, it's largely sales. And
Okay.
that's not something that I'm interested in whatsoever. And fundamentally, I find the same problem. I know enough people in that they don't understand leadership either. So it's a real struggle.
Okay. And then I have one other suggestion, but it's not coming to me at the moment. I have a woman who's looking for some team members on a particular company that you may be a good fit for based on what you just told me, because they're telecom, and she's an amazing operations leader as well. So that could be a possibility. So if you just LinkedIn me, I will try to connect the two of you.
I appreciate it very much.
Yes, and I think you all could hear as he was talking that what he values, if we go to the value section, is he values these, these close, intimate relationships, but only with people that are high drive. He said the word drive, people with a drive. And he also said people that really understand this loyalty and dependability, that people with high ethics and integrity. He's just very, very focused on that. And especially when you have achiever and responsibility together in your top 5, that's going to be intensified. This sense of urgency of delivering really, really high quality, let's say results, with on time with high quality. And then he also said that he values relationships so much, but it's really going to be within that arena. Okay. And he is also a learner and an intellect. So he loves to learn. I'm assuming that you read a lot of books based on the fact that you have learner and intellection. Is that true for you, Adam?
Well, yeah, I read all sorts of media, not just books, though I have a pretty extensive library. And being in the military, military strategy and those kind of things are absolutely in there. The other piece I would say is really the trustworthiness aspect. Yes. And the mission. I'm all about the mission. That's really what it boils down to.
Have you read or listened to, or whatever media you have, Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey?
I haven't.
All right.
I've read. Okay. I've read similar. Sounds like similar things.
Yeah, but I would recommend that one to you because it's going to help you identify trustworthy people very quickly. And the second one that you may absolutely love is Turn the Ship Around. Have you read that one?
I have not.
Okay, there you go. 2 new books for you today. Turn the Ship Around and Speed of Trust. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Any questions about your strengths or about anything else that you're going through?
Not necessarily. It's not a surprise. Being a hardcore engineer, I have, bachelor's and master's in engineering, and then an MBA, and then another master's in strategic military strategy. So none of that is really surprising.
What type of engineering?
Electrical and systems.
Okay. Right.
So lots of math, heavy science. So I'm a major geek when it comes to that.
Yeah, you guys might not know, but my degree was statistics, so I'm right there with you. Love math. So okay, awesome. Let's go back, and we were going to talk to Jesse. Jesse, are you available yet? Jesse, not yet. Let's see. Okay. So Jesse has Woo Achiever Relator Responsibility Activator. You can see she's highly influential. She has a large amount of delivery as well. So she's really, activating things, getting things done, winning people over, really heavily focused on this relationship building as well, just like Jama was, the woo and relator, and giving them the nudges that they need. This is usually a very strong sales profile, because they are not only getting people to like them and winning them over, but they're activating those people to get started and get going. And then they're also helping them with the implementation and making sure that they get onboarded and the delivery happens. And there's a lot of execution in sales. I don't think people realize that sometimes. So she's got a very, very strong sales profile. All right, I'm going to open it up to the group here to see if you guys have just some questions in general.
The one question I have is talk about, if you did it at the beginning, if I wasn't paying attention, is can you talk a little bit about your website? I mean, we're looking at StrengthologyInsights.com. Can you tell us sort of how you came up with it and how job seekers can use it?
Sure. So I just was really, really, really passionate about the Gallup Clifton Strengths assessment and results when I worked for Sabre, which is a travel technology here in the Metroplex. And I was a process improvement person at the time. And what I learned about working with people with this assessment was that I just got such better results when I was able to connect with them as a human, understand who they were, what they were about, how they were motivated, what they cared about. And as I am improving processes, I need them to uptake, right, these new ways of working. But I had to understand why they might want to do that to get them to come over to the other side a little bit more easily. And then as I started, working with them with strengths for that reason, I learned that I just really loved working with them and getting to know them and helping them find a better career if they weren't in the right role at Sabre. And so then I started developing workshops that I could give to each team to help them learn about themselves and build their confidence, but also how could they work together better? Okay, so like, for example, we can look at people side by side and we could say, okay, Kathy has harmony at number 6, Jim has harmony clear down here at 29. There may be some conflict there because Kathy may need a more harmonious interaction where Jim is okay with conflict. Not that he's a conflict oriented person, but he's just okay with it. He's okay with the debate. And so Jim might be, more comfortable with people that like to debate things openly, where Kathy might be like, I just want us all to get along and we can talk about everything, but let's just be really nice about it and peaceful. And then let's all come to an agreement and, walk out the door in agreement. And so, figuring out that we could actually help people work together was fascinating to me through this. So I started building a whole process, and I started it with Excel sheets and Tableau files and PowerPoints and, just pulling data together and doing some really interesting work. The way that I would do the workshops was really, really interesting and fun. And then I saw that not only did that work well with my team in global operations, but all of Sabre needed it and wanted it. I started getting phone call after phone call after phone call. So I was doing 2 jobs. I was doing my main operations job, and later I would move to the innovation team. But I was also doing all of these workshops and all of these individual consultations. So I said, I'm really interested in taking this more seriously. This seems like this is something that companies need. So at that time, I got my Gallup certification and became a formal coach. And then also started doing workshops with y'all at job seeking events to say, how can I help you guys find the right roles out the gate instead of getting into a company and then having to switch positions. And then from there, I was like, maybe I should build this web application so that it automates everything I do, because right now I'm spending 30 hours putting together these presentations for these large teams. So I hired a programmer and I started automating everything. And then I said, why am I the only one that gets to use this? Why shouldn't my clients be able to use this? And so now I have, individuals that can use this. I have leaders that can use this with their teams. I have clients that are coaches that want to use this with their clients. And that seems to spread this, the momentum of this strengths focused approach much, much further, much faster, as you can imagine. The tentacles are long. So if y'all are interested in this, what you can do is go to www.strengthology. There's two ways to get there. I think the one that was put in the chat is this one, strengthologyinsights.com. And basically this is coming, and this one will be the $12 one in the future. That should be implemented by the end of the year. It'll be very specific to the things you guys are looking at, like interviews and branding, and the questions that you get, like what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses, stuff like that. So this $12 is going to shift over here, but because I don't have that separated out yet, the $12 one is here. So this is the one that if any of you have your strengths and you want to input them in here and get all the insights that I showed today, this is the one that you choose. And then also here's where you can take the assessment. So if you need to take the 34 Clifton Strengths assessment, which is the one I recommend, you got to go to Gallup's site to take the assessment. If you already have top 5, but you want to see all 34, which is really good for leaders, especially because you really need to know where your gaps are as a leader and fill them in with your teammates or with other departments. That's the upgrade here. And then there's also the top 5 one here on the right if you are wanting to just do the top 5 strengths. So you have to do this step first, then you can come and log in and register an account here, which is what allows you to see all the insights here. And you can see that there is the snapshot. There's a strength rank, which kind of shows everything zoomed out. And it also says, okay, I might go, oh my God, I don't have any influence. I can select this box up here and go, okay, how do I influence? If I'm not naturally influential, how could I do it? And it says, well, you should teach. You've got learner. Why don't you put yourself in an educational environment? Maybe you can have some influence if you do that. It's like, okay, so it gives me some ideas of going, how can I do certain things that may not be natural to me, but I need to at least get by on those things. There's the definitions, which I showed you earlier. And there's all these, drop downs that you can just go through your different strengths. There's the domain section. You guys saw that today. You saw the strength zones today. So it has a section on that. I can look at my top 5, next 5, and also top 10 to see where I will be at my best and what kind of environments are right for me. There's also an energy section. So this tells me, Brandy, that I have to have some introverted time, which I innately know. I need time to read books and think about things. I've got that learner and intellect that really needs that time. And I end up producing so many ideas and interesting things and, getting a lot done when I do that. So I have to be very careful because, as you know, I do a lot of client work and coaching and business development as well. So that's good for me to know. It's got the values, which we talked about, the unique brand, which is to me one of the best parts because it really starts to get into that nitty gritty of uniqueness. There's the learning styles. So if you guys are in a situation where you need to learn something really quickly, you can look through this to say, how am I going to learn this? Because people learn different based on their strengths. There's the brilliance of being you. There's the perspective you need to have that, other people aren't going to have your strengths. You can't expect them to act like you. And then there's the action plan. I love this because for job seekers, because I think that it is a list of things that you're wanting to see on the requirements. Okay, if you look at a job description, you should be seeing all kinds of these things that say, I need a person that does this and does that and does this. And so that should help you align yourself with the right set of job requirements. There's the success indicators, which shows if I'm in an environment that loves my achiever, like my fitness classes, it is very welcome. Everybody leaves and says, thank you for that great, hard, intense workout, Brady. That was amazing. But if I do that in another environment, like when I'm sitting around with my family, I'm going to drive them crazy. So I have to be very conscientious of when do I flex which strength muscle in order to be most effective. I've also got the outsource section that shows me these are in my bottoms. So I really need to think about how I'm getting these things done, who I'm partnering with, and making sure that I'm not leaving these things on the table. There's the career considerations, which of course we've gone through multiple times today, the strength language, and there's also some book suggestions as well. The other part of the website comes later. When you are a leader of a team, you can create the groups just like we did today. And then you can look at your teams and you can look at all of your teammates at an individual level. And you can set the group so that the team members can either see one another's strengths or they can't, just depending on what you got going on there too. And there's a bunch of different graphs and stuff on the group side. I tried to answer your question in full very quickly. Did that answer all your questions?
Yes, thank you very, very much. All right. Oops, let's see here. Let me turn this audio down. Okay. Well, Brandy, thank you very much. I know we're having audio issues here, and I think I may have just found the issue of what my problem is, but we'll address it after the webinar is over. So, Brandy, thank you very much for being with us. I'm sure if you'd like to reach out to her, I'll put Brandy's LinkedIn contact information in the chat into the email that I put out this afternoon. So if you want to reach out to her, please send her a personal note. Let her know you saw her here if you want to try to connect with her. So, Brandy, once again, thank you very, very much.
Yes, and I'll pull up my LinkedIn information.
All right. Next week, our speaker will be Minna Brown. She'll be talking about the one-page bio. As I said before, I think it's an extremely important, very, very valuable tool that I think everybody needs to have. So come join us next week for that. If you've not put your 30-second introduction in the chat window so we know who you are, please do so. We'll put all that information out to an email this afternoon. Hopefully, we can help you in your job search. Please look over that list, see what companies other people are listing, and see if you can help them out. That'd be one of the very nice things you can do. It's too hot to go outside, so look for the email this afternoon and see how you can help somebody in your nice, cool house yourself. All right, Career DFW and Career USA, we're putting on training 4 days a week. Please join us. Next Tuesday, Terry Sullivan will be with us to talk about, for LinkedIn Tuesday, how to create a LinkedIn brand that tells your key contacts who you are, what you do, and how you can help. It will not be recorded, so if you want to watch Terry's presentation, you will need to watch it live next Tuesday, 1 o'clock Central. Next Wednesday, the practice interview team will be online. You'll be able to watch an actual practice interview. Once again, will not be recorded, but you will be able to watch it live. We only record it for the job candidate themselves so they can go back and watch it. Next Thursday, Networking Thursday, fourth Thursday of the month, we have a different speaker, and I forget who it is. I didn't check before I left. We'll be talking all about networking. Networking is primarily the same thing. It's sitting here and talking to everybody and finding out, what they like, what they can do, how you can help them, and so come join us. Everybody talks about how to network a little bit differently. This session has been recorded. You will be able to watch it on the Career DFW Facebook page or the Career USA YouTube channel. On the Career USA YouTube channel, click on playlist. There's over 230 videos up there right now, or 530 videos. Click on playlist. There's only 7 different playlists. Find the one you want, whatever subject it is. And if you pick like the North Dallas Plano focus group speakers, where the red circle is, click on view full playlist, and up will come a list of the dates and the titles, and you'll be able to scan and find the one you want. Please remember that any of them from the North Dallas group, you probably want to start 25 to 30 minutes in where our speaker is, because I do start recording at the very beginning of our session. If you'd like to come join us today for lunch, we're going to go to Country Burger. Walt Glass has been under the weather, and he said he will meet us for lunch today. So I said, well, you pick the place, and this is where he told me he would like to go. I think he wants that big hamburger to make him feel better, a little bit better. Come join us, northwest corner, Parker and Independence, burger, salad, chicken. Come join us there. We'll be there at 11:45 today. Thank you for joining us today, everybody. Have a great weekend, and we will get these audio problems figured out. So join us next week. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.